Welcome to Strategize with Jared Lewis. I am so glad that you could join us on today. This is going to be a special program, and we have some great information to assist and to help individuals through this trying time. I want you to share this. Let somebody know what's going on, and certainly feel free to make some comments throughout the show, whether you're watching on Facebook Live or YouTube or even our website, jaredlewis.com. I want to let you know this is video on demand. You can watch this anytime, anywhere. But most importantly, I want you to sit back, enjoy yourself, and have fun and learn a lot as we deal with one of the challenging part of life, but we're also here to help you navigate and get through. Once again, get ready and let's have a good time.
Hello, everybody. We're here at Wine Dance National Night Out. We're having a blessed day, and
politicians here.
My
So
wife.
I want you to give a good warm welcome to New York State Senator John Brooks. Come on, clap your hands.
Fabulous Wine Dance National Night Out.
Calendar is now open for virtual ministry. I am available to be a Sunday morning online guest speaker, a midweek Bible study guest speaker via online. I am providing virtual training for men ministries, leadership, and community event. If you're looking for an online presenter, I am available to do classes, webinars, interviews. You can access me through Facebook, Instagram, Zoom, YouTube, and different websites. Connect with me, Jared Lewis, on Instagram and Facebook. Also view our live streaming and a video on demand on jaredlewis.com.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our Focus 40 days of increasing our effectiveness. Today's principle for day number 10 is interaction. We're more interdenominational, we're more ecumenical, we're more inclusive as opposed to being exclusive, because we understand that we have what people need and people have what we need. Understand this, that my mother taught me this principle. Innovation often comes from interaction. And so when we follow Christ's method, how Jesus united us all, he's the greatest example by being a servant leader. We today can also transcend barriers. I want you to think about ways that you can transcend barriers in your circle, your surrounding, and in your culture. Think about it. Write it down. Buy a new book. It starts by serving. It will bless you. Have a great
Once again, thank you for joining us. Today we're going to deal with a topic that I feel is very important given the challenges that our nation, our world is facing on today. We're going to deal with the topic of ministering and mourning. And we are privileged today to have the Director of Bereavement Services for Good Shepherd Hospice, Miss Meribeth McKeever. She is recognized as a distinguished leader in the community, and she has just a plethora of knowledge and information, and we're so glad to have you on today. Thank you for joining us, Meribeth.
It's an honor to be here, Reverend Lewis. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's get right into it. We have several individuals who submitted questions to our clergy association, to our congregation, to students of our Digital Divinity online school, and certain community partners who have submitted questions. And I think one of the first questions that comes up is, how do we deal with the stigma of some faith leaders who have not really embraced the importance of professional mental and emotional health services?
Okay, well, I understand that historically, faith traditions might have been somewhat reluctant to talk about mental health issues. Now, I've been a practicing clinician for 35 years, and because I'm a dinosaur, I've been around to witness a lot. And one of the things that I have witnessed is significant movement in regards to collaboration between faith leaders and mental health providers. I see a lot of positivity in that area. I'm certainly aware that a person's faith leader is often the first professional that they turn to when they're in pain, when they're struggling, and when there's tragedy. But I do believe that as professionals that interface with grieving people, that we recognize, and as time goes on, we recognize more and more mental health professionals, faith leaders, the importance of mental health. And we cannot deny the statistics. When we look at it today, I believe the most current statistic is 1 in every 5 adults is diagnosed with a mental illness. Suicide is the second leading cause of death between young people ages 12 to 30. So this is something all around us. And what I've experienced is, again, a collaboration of professionals. Certainly where I work in hospice, one of the foundations we know to be true is faith, prayer, and spirituality. So
Wonderful.
significantly contribute to people's mental health.
Let me ask you this. That was a great response. Let me ask you this. We have several individuals who are watching today dealing with the challenges of mourning and grief. What advice would you give to a person when they say, my emotions are all over the place? I can't wrap my mind around this. It's challenging to get closure, especially when we're facing the social distancing. So the main question I'm asking you is it possible to properly grieve while we are social distancing?
Okay, the short answer is yes. However, it's challenging, and it's certainly not the same as being able to receive support and connect with our loved ones in person. So, we've got to recognize that our population, not only in our churches, but in our states, our towns, and our country, have been very challenged when it comes to experiencing the death of a loved one, with the restrictions of not being able to spend time with their loved ones if they were in a hospital or a nursing home. Due to the healthcare restrictions. So people were not able to be with their loved ones during the last weeks, days, and moments of their life. People have been had restrictions based on funerals and cremations, social isolation. People are not able to physically get together and get the support, has been the usual custom and ritual. But I can say that I have seen a lot of innovation over the past couple of months with grieving families. I've seen families and individuals think out of the box. There have been hours of phone support. I've seen many grieving families have memorial services. We've assisted with memorial services over social media such as Zoom. We've had funerals on Zoom. We've had drive-bys of support, and things like that. On the other hand, I've also seen people who have said, you know what, I'm going to wait before I attempt any rituals or look for support. I'm going to kind of put my grief on the shelf right now and wait till another time when I can actually be with my other loved ones in person.
I'm glad you mentioned that, and thank you for the wonderful response you gave as it relates to the different opportunities and avenues and creative ways to express your grief. But one particular question that was submitted to us, a lot of individuals are having funerals or memorial services delayed to a later date. But in this vicinity and within my community of faith, we've had over 120 pastors that have transitioned. And so there's a challenge when the membership or the community partnerships come back into that building and they don't see that leader. There may be a re-traumatization, there may be a reaction or a trigger. What would you say to leaders or members or family members they have to approach?
Right. Well, that's a very difficult situation. And as we had talked before the show, I wasn't aware that there was such a large amount of pastors who have died due to the pandemic. But the first thing that I would say is, you know, call it what it is. I think that it has to be openly talked about and identified within the congregation. Not only the loss of a beloved pastor, but there's a collective loss, and also recognizing that there also, in addition, are personal losses within that congregation. So it's the loss of their leader, but also you have to look out, into the churches and see, I'm sure there's hundreds, if not thousands, of other types of losses that the congregants have experienced. And that could be many, many things. Loss of safety, loss of jobs, loss of finances, loss of homes, loss of security. So it's complex. It really is when you're talking about such large numbers of people. One of the things that I would tell you that, again, I was reminded by in working with many, many grieving people during the pandemic was that as as a nation, as individuals, as churches, church families, we have experienced loss before in our histories. Some very, very significant loss. And it's important to remember that, and again, I saw this headlighted for myself, and it was a good reminder that, ultimately, we do have the ability to cope. And I think much more so than we actually realize in a crisis. So I would say, very open communication. Each church really needs to look within their own church and what the dynamics are. Every church, I'm kind of thinking, is like a family. It's every church is different. The dynamics are different. The needs are different. So I would encourage open communication about what are the needs. Maybe somebody needs to set up individual counseling in the church. Maybe somebody needs to begin a bereavement group in the church. But again, you won't know unless there's open communication.
Thank you. Thank you. That leads me to our next question. And the question is, what is the difference? And this is one of the questions that was submitted between a counselor, therapist, psychologist, the different clinicians, social workers. What would you suggest to a church who is starting, who wants to initialize or wants to grow and develop in this area? Can you just give us a quick general overview?
Sure. I will go with psychologists, psychiatrists, and clinical social workers, because that group makes up the largest number of mental health providers in the country. So psychiatrists are medical doctors, they're physicians who prescribe medication. And they prescribe specifically medication for people who have mental illnesses or some type of psychiatric symptoms. That could be very low-grade symptoms, or it could be very significant, profound symptoms. So psychiatrists today mainly provide medication management. It's very rare today that you see a psychiatrist that also provides psychotherapy. A clinical social worker is a licensed clinician who receives their license at a master's level. They are able to make clinical assessments. They're able to give psychiatric diagnosis as well as provide psychotherapy. These clinicians you might often see in private practices. You might see them in group practices. They're also in other settings, mental health settings, like where I work, hospices, schools, those types of settings. Psychologists are clinicians that often work at a PhD level, though there are many that function at a master's level. They also provide clinical assessment, diagnosis, and psychotherapy. But they also have advanced training in administering psychiatric exams, things like IQ tests and personality tests. So, what I've learned over all these many years is I'm not minimizing the degree after somebody's name, but if you were seeking support or counseling or some type of psychiatric treatment, what I would ask you was, well, what is the area that you're looking for? Are you looking for perhaps somebody in the church that is experiencing significant depression? Are you looking for support for somebody who's experiencing an acute grief reaction? There are a million different types of things. To me, what's most important is what somebody specializes in. And, often you'll see when you look at people's bios, they'll tell you what they specialize in. So, think about it. You might have a clinical social worker who in their career might have seen 10 women who struggle postpartumly. And then you might have a psychologist who happens to specialize in that. That's their area of specialty. And maybe they saw 3,000 people in that population in their career. So, who would you want to go to? You would want to go to the person that has the most training and the most clinical experience in the area that you're looking for.
That's a wonderful answer. Thank you so much. I guess I want to close out with this question. There are probably several individuals who need help, need assistance. And as we know, it could be a confidential approach. It's done in private, but certainly we want to make available resources to you or contact. If you can just share your contact information and where you would navigate and direct individuals, I think that would be beneficial to the leaders, students, and the vast audience that is watching on today.
Of course, I would be very happy to. My direct phone number is area code 631-828-7628. And my email is Meribeth, that's MARIBETH .McKeever, MCKEEVER @Chisley, CHSLI, that's Catholic Health Services of Long Island.org. And please, I would encourage anybody, if you have any question about resources, do not hesitate to call me. If either myself or my staff can't help you directly, we certainly will help seek out the proper resource in the community.
Meribeth, thank you for carving time out of your busy schedule. Certainly, we know that this is an intense time, but I can tell by your answers and your professionalism that you really care and you have compassion that people would heal in the midst of this grief process. So thank you once again. We applaud you. Keep up the great work. And
truly my honor. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take care. Have a wonderful day.
Leader, balancing your ability and your anointing. How do you build your relationship with God? How do you maintain a seamless, synergetic relationship with your pastor? A free worship leader class. I'm inviting all worship leaders to join me and my special guest, John McClure, worship leader at Agape Family Worship Center. He's a Sunday best runner-up. More importantly, he loves to worship without compromise. Join us for this free worship leader class. Tune in and connect with us on Facebook, YouTube, and JarrettLewis.com. I pray that you were blessed by this broadcast on today. Consider giving an offering today of $20 or $50 or $100. We are empowering lives with the gospel of Jesus Christ. There are two ways you can give an offering: by Cash App or mailing in your offering. For Cash App, $JERITT LEWIS. It's $JERITT LEWIS. Or you can mail in your donation to 831 Sycamore Avenue in Bohemia, New York, 11716. That's right, you can mail in your offering or donation to 831 Sycamore Avenue in Bohemia, New York, 11716. Once again, there are two ways to give. You can give by Cash App or by mailing in your donation. For Cash App, it's $JERITT LEWIS. Or mail in your donation to 831 Sycamore Avenue in Bohemia, New York, 11716. Thank you, and may God richly bless you.
I want to personally thank Ms. Meribeth McKeever for just doing an outstanding job in addressing some of the pertinent and important questions that people submitted for the show. We know that dealing with grief and mourning is a tender topic, especially in the midst of a challenging time. And we've heard some wonderful feedback by the way of social media and email messages. And I just want to share some of the great comments that we heard. A few questions were asked about how to deal with mourning while you're social distancing and how to deal with the concept. And one gentleman, Jay, wrote, he said, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around this because so many people have passed from the same thing. And he stated it almost doesn't seem real. And how he heard the notifications through Facebook seemed to have initial impact, but then later became numb after a while. And he later stated there are no natural mourning processes because you're not able, as Meribeth said, to see them or to go near your loved one at that challenging or tender time when they passed away. And so he later on stated that it's almost like it doesn't exist, or some individuals were snatched away. And so I want to thank Jay for sharing that perspective of how he's dealing with grieving while social distancing. Justin gave a great remark also. The question was asked, how long grief will last? Justin stated, grief has no end date. It doesn't get easier, but you develop coping mechanisms. Grief doesn't have to be a sad moment, but you can do things in remembrance of the individuals that could bring laughter and joyous moments. And I concur with that, Justin, and I certainly for sharing that one thought. And that is correct. You can find ways to remember the happy and the good times and the joyous times that you've experienced. Personally, I have had the wonderful honor of having a wonderful mother. She was a great woman of God, and when she went on home to be with the Lord, I learned a lot in my grief process, and I feel that my growth and development could be a blessing to others. And one of the things I do cherish is the joyous times, the laughter, the singing, the jokes, even the fun times we had in the kitchen or even on our way to church. So we cherish all the wonderful times that we experience. And I thank you, Justin, for sharing that. There was one other comment that I thought was awesome. Eugenia, she was actually responding to a person who said they were really challenged with different emotions at in-op times. And so the emotions were going back and forth. And Eugenia said in her comments, there is no wrong or right way of how a person grieves. And also many people find that they may experience these stages out of sequence. In addition, it's possible to experience a stage, move on to the next or another, and revisit a stage again. All of this is okay. It's about how you cope. For us as believers, having the comfort of the Holy Spirit is a blessing in our life. And I want to say, Eugenia, that was a wonderful remark. I encourage those to seek God's presence. As Meribeth said, find a community of faith, a church, a family. And if you don't have none, there are mechanisms and there are resources available through social media and also through telephone communication. So I want to just commend you, those who are dealing with grief right now. You may be in ministry and you're mourning at the same time, to really face the reality of knowing that, number one, God is with you. Number two, we are here to help you. And number three, that you can make it. All right. And I want you to let you know that you get through this. Everyone has a different development process. Everyone has a different grief process. But with God, He can help us through this. I want to personally thank everyone for joining in on today. We were able to give some information, some insight, and some resources. And certainly, I know that this will be a blessing to you. Join us next week. We have a phenomenal guest who will be coming aboard. He's a wonderful worship leader, and we're going to be talking about the work of a worship leader. And I'm honored and privileged to invite aboard my friend and brother, John McClure, who will be sharing some wonderful information about being a worship leader. Thank you again. Remember, you can watch all of our shows on video on demand. And certainly, if you feel like God is encouraging you to sow into this ministry, please do be a blessing to us. And we know that we will carry the ministry forward to bless people's lives. Once again, signing off, my name is Jarrett Lewis. I love you with the love of the Lord, and have a blessed day. God bless.